On today's show, we've got more Summer League to talk about, whether Nae'qwan Tomlin can make an impact on the Cavs this year, plus everything we've heard from Vegas. All straight ahead on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everybody, my name is Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. You might know my co-host today, Spencer Davies from Cleveland Cavaliers on SI, RG.org, or a number of other stops that he's made as well. And thank you for making Locked On Cavs today your first listen. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. Make sure to drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. And of course, be a friend. Tell a friend about the show. And if you're watching on YouTube as we get started here, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content, a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Cavs are back in Summer League action today, their fourth and final regular season Summer League game before they'll have at least a fifth game, maybe even, advance to the playoffs, which I don't necessarily think is likely. Maybe it's mathematically not possible. I'm not even sure. We're recording this at 6 o'clock Pacific time. Weird to say, on Tuesday evening. So we have seen the Cavs play 3 games so far. I got to see them play in person. You didn't because you're the worst person in the world at traveling. So you missed them on Sunday, but obviously you've gone back and watched that game. And one of the big talking points, I know we touched upon this a little bit yesterday, Spencer, is what Nae'qwan Tomlin has been able to do so far. And people with the Cavs, I think, are thrilled with what he's been able to do. I think other teams across the league have kind of taken notice of, this guy might actually be a player. Like, he's somebody that multiple people have mentioned to me as Nae'qwan Tomlin has been somebody that has been impressive. Just what have you liked about what you've seen from him, Spencer?
I think the improved strength is number one for me because it's allowed him to get positioning for rebounding. I think that the jump shot has actually looked really good. The catch and shoots, always getting on the offensive glass, and the cutting to me, I think, is really underrated. And the way he's been able to make himself available and do the right thing when he gets to the basket. And also just being Johnny on the spot with those offensive boards, as I was just talking about. I think the defense still has a little bit of ways to go yet, but from what they're asking of him to get stronger, to make sure that you're playing with an imposing force, which he has, and he's getting in the score column, he's getting in the rebound column. I think he's done a heck of a job, man. And he's somebody that you really got to keep your eye on. Feel like he's going to be a rotational player before we know it, to be honest.
Yeah, rotational player, maybe. Like, I see the outline of what he could look like as an NBA player in a real playoff rotation, because that is what you have to talk about. Like, if the Cavs were in the position of the Washington Wizards right now or the Charlotte Hornets right now, like, I think Nae'qwan Tomlin has enough there. I think he does enough things well that if you are a team that is in a deep rebuild, the way that those teams just seem to perpetually be, Nae'qwan Tomlin is a guy that makes a lot of sense as somebody that could go in and play 15, 20 minutes a night in the NBA right now, maybe as soon as this year. But it's a different conversation with the Cavs because you're not just rolling the balls out in December and whatever happens, happens. Like, the Cavs do have the ability, because of how good they are, to see what happens and experiment with certain things. But everything that they're going to do between now and next June, presumably, is with trying to win the finals in mind. And I don't know where Nae'Qwan fits into that this year, but I do think that down the line, he's somebody that could maybe fit into that. And he's on a 2-way contract for this year. I would not be surprised if by the end of the year, he is on a standard contract. Now, I think it would also have to require him to maybe agree to a contract that is, the 4-year deal worth $10 million, where 2 years are guaranteed. And the 2 years after that are the team options, the very club-friendly deal that Sam Hinkie and the Philadelphia 76ers made famous over a decade ago at this point. But that is the type of thing that I could see him progressing to later on this season. And for me, I think the shooting's been very good. His ability to knock down corner threes at the clip that he has so far at Summer League, I think, is a big boost, because that is one of the things that you look at what he does at Summer League, what he was able to do with the Charge last season. Like, you do also have to, and I think that this is a conversation with Jaylon Tyson that I know we had a little bit yesterday, might get into again today, but how to evaluate these guys when they are in roles that are so different compared to if Nae'Qwan Tomlin does make an impact on the Cavs, it's not going to be in the role that he's playing right now. So I think that is a challenge too when you're having these conversations, when you're watching these games, is how does the things that he's doing right now in a higher usage role translate to a lower usage role?
Yeah, the evaluation has to be difficult from that perspective because they're not going to be touching the ball as much as they are. Even Jaylon Tyson was joking to me today in our interview. Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are going to be clapping their hands, so he's not going to be handling the ball as much as he is here in Las Vegas. So these guys have to show what they're capable of. If you need it in a pinch, if you need something of like, all right, 2-3 possessions, I need you to be somebody that's impactful on the offensive end. I need you to be someone who's impactful on the defensive end. But for most part, like role playing at the next level, at that higher stage, is doing the little things. And it's so cliche to say, but it is true. It's the offensive rebounding, the thing that Nae'Qwan Tomlin talked to me about like 4 different times and 4 different answers, was talking about possessions, getting extra possessions for his team, keeping plays alive, the small stuff. That's how you're going to get on the floor with these NBA teams, because let's face it, a lot of them have their scoring figured out. A lot of them have their playmaking figured out. Where do you fit into all of this? And that's what Jaylon Tyson and Nae'Qwan Tomlin are trying to do now. And I think that Nae'Qwan brings enough of those intangibles to the table already to where he'll be on a standard contract, in my eyes, a little bit earlier than even by the end of the season to me.
Well, I mean, I'm not putting like a date on it. Like maybe it is. Yeah. I just think that would kind of be like, if he's not by the end of the season, I would be surprised.
Sure.
Like maybe it's December. The Cavs, as we know, the way they like to build the rosters, they want to have 14 guys on standard contracts and use up their 2 ways because they want flexibility. And truthfully, as a team that is this deep into the luxury tax that is in the second apron, obviously that last guy is going to be on a minimum deal, but it's not just the minimum deal. It's all the tax that comes along with it.
It's so the Dante Jones perspective.
You don't want to have a 15th guy on the roster, partially for financial reasons. So maybe they sign somebody else as that 14th guy, or maybe they do give it to Nae'Qwan Tomlin. I don't know what they're going to do, but I do think that if I would be surprised at this point with how good he's looked, if by the end of the season he's not on a standard contract. Because I do think, and we have seen this with other guys, like being on a standard contract doesn't mean you can't go play for the Charge at times. Like we saw Jaylon Tyson do that. We've seen Craig Porter Jr. at times go play for the Charge, which is funny. He actually never played a game in the G League when he was on a 2-way. And then once he was on a standard contract, he started playing games in the G League, which was a weird coincidence, certainly a backwards thing. But I do think that if he has the opportunities to continue to grow as a basketball player, I think he can make it as an NBA type of player. Now, the thing that I am curious about is, what do you think that we've seen from him that, one, does need to get better to be that NBA caliber player, and 2, like what are we'll start there, because I think the other thing's a bigger picture.
Okay, so where I'm seeing it for me, at least in that first game, we had like 5 fouls in like 9 minutes or something like that. Get a little bit better, get a little less handsy on that, right?
And for the record, the summer league foul rules are different.
Correct.
Where you can have 10 fouls. Your 10th foul fouls you out.
I love this.
But also, like, it's amazing. But the other thing with that too, that I do think we have to remember as we talk about that, because you're not wrong about that, but the officiating crews in Vegas are not the same officiating crews in NBA games. And I think if you watch these games, you can kind of realize that. Like, there are times where I think these crews get a little whistle happy, and there are fouls that are called in summer league games that you're like, that is not an NBA foul. And I do think that while Nae'Qwan does need to improve in that area, you are 100% right. I also think, well, part of that is being a victim a little bit to some green officiating.
Certainly. And I mean, on the offensive end for me, like maybe ball handling, like what I said on the last podcast that we did it reminds me a lot of that early starting Pascal Siakam, where he's cutting, making himself available and all that stuff. Pascal has obviously gotten really good at isolation now, and he can handle and he can bring it up the floor. Can you see Nae'Qwan Tomlin, after a few years of development, grabbing a board and running the floor like an Evan Mobley, perhaps? Like,
where that's a little lofty.
It is. It's very lofty. But can you see that? Like, that can be the next step, I think, after he figures out the rest of the stuff, which it's not consistent yet, and he hasn't done it at the NBA level, but he has done a dang good job at the G League level. For me, Nae'Qwan Tomlin is very intriguing as a prospect because he's one of those guys that's 6'9", and he's got that size that you can play him at that 4. He knocks down that 3. He's your stretch 4 you look for. You might be able to play him at the 3 in pinches if you want to, because Kenny Atkinson likes to try everything. Even as a small ball 5, I know that might be pushing the limit a little bit, but he has a lot of that skill set that I think can be expanded a little. And, you mold a piece of clay, guy who's been playing for 5 years,
which is crazy,
who goes from JUCO to Memphis to Kansas State, and he's already here in his progression. The guy that didn't play high school basketball at all. I think that you might have something really, really interesting on your hands.
I think so too. And I do think one of the challenges of this summer league is kind of how to evaluate him. And I think the same thing is true for Jaylon Tyson. And I think to a certain extent, maybe a little bit lesser, the same thing is true of Tyrese Proctor. So what I want to do next is I want to talk, I kind of want to rank easiest to most difficult to evaluate how they translate from summer league to the NBA. So we're going to do that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish that managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can, even if you go to Vegas like we did, where managing your money might not be the easiest thing to do. Whether you're growing your savings or planning for a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over all your finances. And Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending right in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. Monarch Money also makes it very easy. If you are maybe, opening a joint bank account for the first time, can make it very easy to manage money with your partner. Certainly something that you might think, that's a pretty stressful endeavor, but Monarch Money takes all the stress away as they help you to grow your wealth together. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. That is code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. So, Spencer, there are 3 guys, I think it's fair to say, and Craig Porter Jr. is not, I assume, not going to play today, has missed the last 2 games, and for all intents and purposes, has missed all of summer league because he played 7 minutes because of a hamstring injury in the first game. So Craig Porter Jr. does not, this conversation does not include him.
A couple of nice step back jumpers though.
Right. As I include, they have 3 guys that I think could impact the Cavs this year, legitimately impact the Cavs this year. Cause there's somewhere else that maybe could, but I just don't know that this year is in it for him. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I'm excluding Craig from this conversation just because he's been here, but he's not played. So between Jaylon Tyson, Nae'qwan Tomlin, and Tyrese Proctor, 2 guys on standard NBA contracts, 1 guy on a 2-way deal. So all 3 guys that will be, in some sense, a part of the actual Cavs this year. But I think that they are evaluated, it's different how we have to evaluate all 3 of them, right? So who of those 3 right now do you find the most difficult to evaluate what they're doing in summer league?
Oh, that's tough.
I don't ask easy questions.
You don't. I think had Craig Porter Jr. not gone down, maybe Jaylon Tyson wouldn't be doing the stuff that he was doing in summer league.
That's the answer. That is the answer.
And it's just he's the one that's bringing the ball up a lot right now, and he's kind of been made into the de facto point guard in a way, and that's not what he's going to be doing at this Cavs team next year. He's going to be the hustle guy. He's going to need to be a little bit more involved offensively, of course, but not to the level to where he's running an offense and doing pick and roll with Nae'Qwan Tomlin, which, by the way, has been a great duo. I
would not count on that getting action in the playoffs.
No, I would not yet, at least. But yeah, it's a little bit more difficult because the roles that a lot of these guys play, this goes outside of the Cavs too. This goes for a lot of players on 2-way contracts and second-year guys that basically get the reins of a basketball team. And a lot of these front offices, all right, okay, show me what you can do. And I want you to work on this, and this, and be damned whether shots go in, shots go out. I want you to play this particular role. Show me what you can do in this particular role. I think that's what they had planned for Jaylon Tyson. And then they had something abrupt happen, like Craig Porter Jr. going out. And now he's kind of playing the same role he did play last year, honestly, because he was running the team last year too.
Right. And I do think that I think he's doing a better job of it this year, which is to be expected for a second-year guy, for somebody that has, I think, a lot more confidence, it's fair to say, this year at Summer League than he did last year, because let's face it, he has 12 months of NBA experience under his belt that he didn't have at this time last year. And the only way you get that is by actually going through it the way that he did. So I do think that he's the hardest one to evaluate. And I think that of those three guys, what makes this tricky is I think he's been the best player. I think he has been better than Nae'Qwan. I think that he's been better than Tyrese. Like, he has looked to me like somebody that does not necessarily, like, he does look, I think, to an extent, a little bit better than a Summer League player. Like, it almost looks, he sticks out in a way that he doesn't belong, right? Like, and that's what you want from a second-year Summer League player. So to see that, it, I think, should be an encouraging thing, but it's also, well, how much of this actually translates? And that is one of the things where, and I talked to him about this on Tuesday, that he does have to, while he's running the team and playing in a role that he's not going to play for the Cavs, that he does have to look for what he would be doing in other spots. Like, he mentioned to me that he sees where the cuts are, even though he's not the one making the cuts, or he sees the catch and shoot opportunities, even though he might be the one setting those opportunities up, which I do think part of this point forward role that he's in can help him in the connector role that we talked about yesterday, because it's one thing to learn on the job, but it's another thing to watch it be done by somebody else when you're helping it get done too.
Yeah, you're able to read the game while you're actually initiating. So, like, okay, I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum here now. I'm the one making the pass to the guy making the cut, or the guy that's making the V cut back out to the perimeter, or I'm the one who's going to be probably in a small pick and roll, but I'm not going to be the one who's passing. I'm going to be the one who's going to this spot. Like, so that makes a lot of sense to me. And it's very advantageous for him to get that perspective, because it's good to watch from the bench. Like, no lie. Like, it's good to see it from that perspective.
Sure.
But when you're the actual guy with the ball in his hands and, it's A and B, but you're playing A, but you're going to play B for the regular team, I think that you now know how to work both sides of it. And having that versatility is going to be good for him too, to be able to play both of those roles. But I agree with you. The fact that he's studying the playbook, he knows what spots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is going to be on. And if he's in this role, they're going to do this, you're going to do that. Like, it's very advantageous for him to see it as the floor general.
So who do you think between the other two, and Nae'Qwan and Tyrese, is more of a challenge to evaluate what they're doing?
I guess Tyrese. I don't know.
I think it's Nae'Qwan, because I think that he's higher usage. Like, I think that, and we've seen, I mean, I don't know that the shooting percentages necessarily bear how good of a shooter I think Tyrese is going to be. But if you watch him, like, I do think that he's in a role on this Summer League team where he's going to be a movement shooter. He's going to be a guy that can do catch and shoot stuff. He's going to, maybe not have the basketball in his hands as frequently with the Cavs when he does start to earn rotation minutes, whether that's this year, next year, or sometime in the future, if ever, because he's the 49th overall pick. And that's how that goes sometimes at that spot. But I think the shot looks really good. And that is the thing that I think mattered the most for him coming out of Summer League. Just like, is that shooting real? Because I think of all the skills that he has, to make it in the NBA, you have to have one elite skill. You don't have to have two, don't have to have three. Like, if you do, you're a superstar, and Tyrese Proctor is not going to be a superstar. But I think that the shooting is an NBA-ready skill. And I know the percentages don't necessarily look awesome, but I think it's passed the eye test for me.
I think the quick release is really what's going to be the skill that he brings. And that thing is a really, really beautiful form. And, this is a guy who was a 5-star coming out of Australia, goes to Duke a little early, and, has to make that adjustment after being at the Global Academy. I mean, Dyson Daniels and Josh Giddey, all these guys at the Academy spoke glowingly of him when I interviewed them all those years ago, and he was like 16, 17 years old. So there's clearly talent within Tyrese Proctor. When he talked to us at Summer League when we were back in Cleveland, he was talking about his defense being something that will keep him on the floor, being 6'4", 6'5", being able to make that happen in that role, because he watched so much of the finals and brought up the Thunder and how many guys were switchable, how many guys could really guard.
Right.
And on the next level, as we were just talking about with Jaylon Tyson, Tyrese Proctor's role in these situations, I don't know how much more he's going to touch the ball. And he brought it up a couple of times. He's been also a de facto point guard, even though he's more of a combo. And he's had the ball a little bit more in his hands probably than expected. but on the next level, he's going to probably be relegated to that catch shoot guy. I don't know how much of a connector he is yet because we don't really have that high of a sample size with this team.
That's fair.
But defensively and the ability to shoot, I mean, 3-and-D, it's the cliche, it's the old fallback. And I mean, he's 6'5", so you're going to be able to play him at the 1 and the 2.
But it's valuable. Like that skill set. That is, I think
guard lineups, I'm saying.
3-guard lineups. And that is maybe something that I think is a bigger conversation piece maybe for later in the summer about how the Cavs should be. Like, because they are going to run out 3-guard lineups, and I think they make much more sense this year than they did last year because they have Lonzo Ball, who is 6'7" and a good defender, as opposed to Ty Jerome, who is 6'5", but I think kind of plays like he's 6'3" and is not a good defender. So I think that those 3-guard lineups make more sense, but I think that is something that maybe gets overused a little bit. But I think that's a different conversation for a different day. But I think that the role Tyrese is in is one that when he does crack an NBA rotation, like it's just where I could see him actually fitting in. And that's what's important to me about watching this.
Yeah. And I think that he's still got to work on the handle a little bit. It looked a lot better in the next couple of games than the first game. The first game, it looked like he was a little bit shy, a little bit too loose with it, kind of not aware of where the defenders were. Like, you just kind of pick that stuff up as you get more experience on this level. Remember, a lot of college players have to get used to the spacing on the floor. It's something that they actually have some room to drive and room to make passes and stuff. So it is an adjustment as well. So I'll give them a little bit of leeway there, but got to make sure you can handle the ball. Got to make sure you take care of the basketball and deliver to your teammates on time and knock down open shots.
That certainly matters. Well, the Cavs, as we've mentioned earlier in this podcast, they've got 13 guys under contract, got 2 guys on 2-ways, one of which is not here in Luke Travers, but they've got an open 2-way slot. Could somebody on this Summer League roster fill that slot? We're going to talk about it next right here on Locked on Cavs. Thank you for making today's edition of Locked on Cavs your first listen. Thank you for making it your first listen every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And Spencer, Tristan Enaruna has been somebody that I think has maybe turned heads is a little strong. But I do think that if you've watched the Cavs, he has been somebody that has been impressive, is probably the right way to put it, where he has looked like, he not looking too good for Summer League, but he has looked at the very least like he belongs out there. And I had to say that coming out of the game on Sunday, they played their 3rd Summer League game. He was the guy that, like, Jaylon Tyson was the best player on the floor in that game against Miami. But I thought that Enaruna was maybe the 3rd best player in the game, behind Tyson, behind Khalil Ware of the Miami Heat. And that's a really great place to be for a guy that maybe makes sense on a 2-way.
Sure. And, he was playing with the main Celtics last year, and he's had G League experience.
They never should have changed their name. They should have been the Red Claws. The Red Claws is such a better name. It's such a better name.
I know.
It's so unoriginal. Just don't name yourself after your, like, I like that it's not, it wasn't the Canton Cavs when they were in Canton. Obviously now they're the Cleveland Charge instead of the Canton Charge. But be unique. Don't call yourself, oh yeah, we are the Celtics affiliate. No, you really didn't need to call yourself the main Celtics for anybody to know that. Everybody knew it. Like, just be original. It's sorry.
This is where this conversation's going, but back to the
It's so dumb. Just be the main Red Claws. It was awesome. And they had a great logo too.
They did. They really did. Back to Enaruna though. He to me, I think, and I'm a little biased because I am pretty in tight with a lot of people at the Portsmouth Invitational Tournament. He was the MVP of that thing. And that drew eyes to him. That got him in a space where he understands mentally what it takes to be an NBA player. And interviewing with teams and just understanding and getting a grasp of all these guys are pretty much more talented than me. So I need to find what can get me on the floor. And I think that is really important, and it's not talked about enough, is that you have to sacrifice when you're on that tier of player going to a professional league at any level. But the NBA in particular, man, you got to pass the ball right. You got to, again, go back to take care of the basketball, get my team extra possessions, cut the right way. And I think something he's done really well is it just seems like off the ball, he's been fantastic at just, and you don't see that often from a guy that's 6'8", pretty much playing the 5.
Right. Yeah.
And he's actually moving off the ball, making himself available. The finishing has been fantastic. Did you see that left-hand throwdown? That thing
Which
was
one?
nasty.
He had He had 3 dunks in that game
Yeah.
against Miami.
He's getting up, man. Like,
and I asked him after the game which of those were his favorite. He said the last one without question. And it was, I believe, out of a sideline out of bounds play. It might have been a baseline out of bounds play, but it was off of a set, and the Summer Cavs ran it to perfection. And he went up, and it was just a nasty dunk that you don't often see. And it was not the best dunk of Summer League, because I think Johnny Furphy has that handle, or has that title in his back pocket.
Aussie.
With what he was able to do. I believe that was against the Bulls. But Tristan has had a few of those explosive moments. Like he's 6'8", 6'7", and he's playing a lot of center, some power forward. But he has been, I think, explosive enough athletically to kind of mitigate that size disadvantage he is sort of at here.
Yeah, and I think that you still have to see it more consistently on the outside shooting too. But for where he's at now in his career and what setting he's in at Summer League, I think that he's absolutely thrived, and he's showing them that they should at least consider him for something on this organizational side. Like, not the big team yet, but potentially, like you said, that two-way. I mean, you know, we roll on Exhibit 10, and that's what you do, is you try to get up to that next spot and try to get a training camp invite and all that stuff. That's really important, and you can make your mark in the Summer League. Look what happened with some of the guys from the past that play in the Summer League. You make an impression, and it's not even just for the Cavs too. Like, it's everywhere. This is what Summer League is for. It's getting reps and showing the NBA teams, the 30 teams that are here, that you deserve a spot on their squad.
Right. And I do think that I would be surprised if Tristan is not at the very least in training camp with the Cavs, but I think he's somebody, Spencer, that makes a lot of sense on a two-way deal if they can make that happen.
Sure. And I mean, you have flexibility there now. And as we were talking about earlier, like, it's interesting to think about, but like, if Nae'Qwan gets converted, then you open up another two-way spot.
Right.
I don't know if I don't know how soon that happens, but like, you have a little bit more flexibility figuring out what your next two-way slot's going to be, who you're going to develop in the system. You know, you still have Luke Travers. You just mentioned him. He's not here right now, but what's his role going to look like? So you have a lot of flexibility with these spots. And I think that their development team is second to none, and they know how to scout and find these guys, and credit to them, because it looks like Enaruna is one of those guys that's going to make a case for it.
Well, and that is something that the Cavs have done a great job with over the years. And they're at a point now where it's time for them to find somebody, another diamond in the rough. And given the track record of Kobe Altman and this front office and Mike Yanzi and what they have done, I'm going to bet, and you know, I don't think Enaruna is part of this conversation quite yet, but I'm going to bet that one of Proctor or Jaylon Tyson or Craig Porter Jr. or Nae'Qwan Tomlin is going to be a guy that we look at and say, that guy can give them minutes in the playoffs. And if you can find that out of, and I know Tyson was the number 20 overall pick, so there are different expectations there, but Tomlin undrafted, Craig Porter Jr. undrafted, 49th overall pick for Tyrese Proctor. Like, if you can find that out of one of those guys, it is such a massive home run, and this front office has shown that they can do it. So I think that, like, the over-under, if you were to set for those four guys, the over-under for it working out is probably at 1.5, and I would probably lean towards the over.
Yeah, no, I would too. And I would give them more than a 25% chance that one of them works out of the four. I would give them more than a 50% chance that two of them work out.
I think there's a 100% chance one of them of the four works out.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't think that any of it, like they are so good at finding these guys and discovering talent. And it started for me like with Dean Wade. Dean Wade was the first one I think that they really caught on with.
Yeah, and I think that was a little different almost just because of the pandemic.
Sure.
Right? Like, because he started on a two-way, and two-ways at the time, I don't even know we're allowed to play in the G League. Like, Dean never played in the G League while on his two-way. So, I mean, it does start with that, but I think the pandemic made that just situationally a little bit different. But I mean, they still deserve a lot of credit for it.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And then we went down the list, you know, Sam Merrill being the first pick in the G League draft a couple of years ago. And then you go to Craig Porter Jr. You just find these guys that you develop internally. That's the biggest thing that Kobe Altman talked about at his end of season press conference. The internal development kind of gave us hints on what was going to happen with Ty Jerome. Like, he was just like, we have such a good staff top to bottom that we're going to get these guys developed, and Kenny Atkinson's offseason program and all of this stuff that I think, frankly, is what makes this team what it is. It's the player development. And you even look at the macro level of that, of the Darius Garlands and the Evan Mobley's, like that goes top to bottom. And
heck, even Donovan Mitchell. Like
Yes.
Donovan Mitchell, I think, was a superstar when he arrived, but he is like, I think, 2 levels better of a basketball player than he was when he got to Cleveland.
Sure. I mean, you think about the playmaking ability that he's displayed and the 3-point shot. Like just keep that in mind, like how much better that got too over the years. So it's a good staff, and we talked up and down about the front office and how much credit they deserve on the last episode. And I think these are, other things that they do that just don't go unnoticed in our eyes.
Yes, they certainly matter, and that is, I think, part of how you build a championship team. Is there anything else from Summer League that you need to get off your chest before you fly back to Cleveland Wednesday morning?
I'm just crossing my fingers that I can get back on my original flight. Okay, he didn't get to make fun of me on yesterday's episode, so I'm giving him the platform now to do that.
So my biggest fear is because, and I didn't make fun of you a ton on the episode, but I have made fun of you plenty off of the microphones. So my biggest fear at this point, because my flight is tonight, Wednesday night, my biggest fear is that I run into travel issues, because all I've done is make fun of your travel issues. Because last year you were in Vegas for, I think, 48 hours longer than you had anticipated being in Vegas, because you had several flights canceled, and that was out of your control, obviously. But then to get the text from you while I was on a plane to Vegas, I got here Sunday morning, you got here Sunday night, but to get a text from you Sunday morning saying my flight got canceled, gonna miss the Cavs game, while I'm already in the arena after being on a plane for 7 hours, I did find funny. I'm not going to lie. I felt bad for you, but I also found a little bit funny, because it's just par for the Spencer Davies course.
It is very much so. And you know what? I'm shooting 7 under on that course, because it happens all the dang time. But it's really incredible. I scheduled my flight before all this happens, before the NBA Summer League schedule comes out, and the Cavs end up playing that Thursday. Then they go Saturday, Sunday, and I didn't even get to watch one game. Luckily, though, we were able to cover a practice together out over at a high school in Las Vegas, and that was good to see all the guys. And you've seen them out and about. That's the best part about Summer League. Everything's so informal. Everyone's so kind and generous with their time. So that part's been awesome, and that's why I don't dwell on my travel issues. But yes, getting here Sunday was a bear.
Well, let's hope you can get home. Let's hope I can get home. And let's hope that you make tomorrow's, and hope this was today's first listen. But thank you for making it that first listen, wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify, or anywhere else. And make sure to give us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, click subscribe, hit that notification bell. And I'll be back tomorrow talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.